Right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm delighted that you guys don't see the behind-the-scenes footage.
Do you know what? I think sometimes we should just roll with it, leave it in.
I think so.
But it just doesn't reflect well on me normally.
No, well, that's why I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it does. You just look like the understanding, respectful pod partner.
Empathetic.
It just makes me look like a bumbling idiot. Literally just before we start the recording, I'm doing my epic intro as always.
It was epic.
And I touch my mic ever so slightly and it just completely cuts out, completely ruins the moment.
Yeah. I mean, do you blame the equipment or do you blame the user?
Why would I blame myself?
I don't know.
Like, if the Tories
self-esteem
have taught me anything over the last 14 years, mate, it's that you don't have to fall on your sword at all. You don't have to accept consequences.
So are you blaming the small boats?
I mean, in a roundabout way, if you really want to get
Yes.
into the nitty and gritty of it, absolutely. I blame the foreigners.
I agree. I concur.
It's because of them that the wire became loose and disturbed the recording.
Yes, because we're so busy trying to feed them and put them up in luxury mansions that we can't afford to invest in proper technology in this country.
Or
All of
to
our
maintain
taxes,
it properly.
our taxes are going on putting them up in big houses, driving fancy cars when it should be going into the technological
Where's the
advancement
campaign
industry.
promises for the podcaster, for the humble podcaster? I'm not talking about, you know, the James A. Casters of the world that have got a nice cushy podcast. I'm talking about the working class podcasting hero.
podcast.
Do you know what I mean? Should that be what we rebrand to, the working class podcast? Or do you reckon
The working class podcast heroes.
But guys, watch this space. If we suddenly rebrand, you know why. Because we feel like we're onto something.
But I agree. I think there should be more in the manifestos to cover us.
Yeah, I feel like there should be subsidised. I mean, the problem is, though, we know if we put our tinfoil hats on for a second, really, they don't want us out there creating content that points out their lies and their insecurities and all the nasty things they've done.
Yeah, but they never stick to these promises. They could just promise us some stuff and then not deliver.
Well, that's exactly what they do.
Exactly. But they haven't promised us anything.
No, that is a reoccurring issue. I mean, other than promising that young people are going to have to go into the army,
I mean, the only time
people are going to have to pay less.
the only time we ever got a mention was when Liz Truss threw us under the bus.
Yeah, we're the tofu eating wokerati,
Yeah.
aren't we? Yeah, and we're probably
We're the
enemies
enemy
of the state. You know, we should have just got on board with it from the beginning, Jake. Do you know what I mean? We should have just driven the gravy train like the rest of them.
Well, if you listen to some of my clips, you'll find I have been on board with it. Very much the enemy
You're
of the
not
state.
as bad. If you look at today of recording, I released a clip where I go a bit flag
You go
wavy,
full flag waving, yeah.
and it's done well.
It has done well.
That always, and immediately an extra couple of followers on TikTok, and I'm like, I'm not sure if they've joined for the right reasons. And in all the posts about it, I find I added into it that like my tongue's very much in my cheek as I'm saying these things, and there's still people that feel the need to comment stuff like, "Oh, thanks for opening my eyes." The Brits
atrocities of the
starved
British,
3
yeah.
million of my people, but yeah, you're right. You should keep your stuff, and it's like, come on. Watch if you watch the whole clip at the beginning of it, I'm like, they should absolutely have their stuff back, but fuck them.
So undermine your own point there, don't you?
And I stick to it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think we've covered that. You can go back and listen to that in the previous episode.
You absolutely can.
If you want to hear just how much we are enemies of the state, you can go back and listen to that in any of the previous episodes. All available in all good podcast places and on YouTube.
We're pretty anti-establishment, I would say. Until we're off the money, that I think we've covered that quite well as well. That with enough money thrown in our faces, we'd probably turn on our ideals.
I'm very punk until the right money comes along,
GB
and then I'm new
News,
wave.
they come along and offer us our own panel show.
Now, panel show.
No limits. Like, but what I mean, like panel show, like a debate show.
Yeah.
Me and you are mediating. We get different people on from different sides.
How much say do we have on who we get on?
90% editorial control. So they still have a little
I'm
10%
in.
sliver.
I'm in.
You reckon we could get?
We could have such fun.
Yeah.
We'd be out in like 6 months because
Not even that.
they'd be like, you don't represent the brand.
No. But would you do a column for The Sun, for example?
No, I've got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, I've got to admit I wouldn't either. I'd want to be able to go to Liverpool one day.
Unless, I mean, they'd never let me editorially get past the, they'd never let me get past the editorial stage.
Yeah, your first one
Unless
you
my
submit to
headline
your
was,
editor.
don't read The Sun. Top 10 reasons why you shouldn't read this paper.
Yeah. Imagine.
I wouldn't even call it a paper, this rag.
Yeah.
this loo roll supplement.
What other right-wing organisations could we get you working for?
Well, you've got to find out what your...
Because the thing is, look, there is...
You want to know where the line is of what I would and wouldn't do.
There's a slight... Yeah, I want to know where your morals are. Because we all have a line, don't we? Everyone has a number of, like, where they're willing to bend. Like, we know Jordan Henderson's number, don't we?
Yes, we do. Just Stephen Gerrard released a thing the other day that was like, I didn't go for the money.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, mate.
The thing is, they always say that, though, don't they?
He said from his nice Lamborghini.
But in the house he's not paying for. They all, like, I would always have so much more respect for someone if they went, like, mate, they offered me 500 grand a week. What do you want me to do? I'd have respected Jordan Henderson more from the beginning if he'd have just gone, look,
it's a lot of money.
I got offered a lot of money, and yeah, I've gone completely back on my morals.
He could have even gone the other way and gone, look, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have nothing. I could think of all the things I could do with this money. You don't have to do them. You just say what you could do them. And when people go,
but
you said, you know, what about you could end this poverty and you could help these organisations? You're like, yeah, I said I could.
I didn't say I was going to.
I didn't say I was going to. I said, think about what I
These
could
are
do.
all possibilities.
They're possibilities.
Yeah.
I never committed
They
to
were
any
on
of them.
my mood board of like things, if I'm in the mood for it.
I never committed to them. That's on you.
Yeah. Do you reckon that's what the current politicians are going for? Like, these are things we feel positively about, but whether we actually try and do them in any way.
You know, we could, you know, put a big dent in national debt without really opening out people's pockets.
Yeah.
We're not going to.
No.
But we could. I'm just saying we could.
We could tax big corporations and we could make sure we're getting their fair share of tax out of it. Doesn't mean we will.
We could bring some of the big utilities back into the public sector so that it could be better regulated, better controlled, and people could live actually healthier lifestyles. And it would, you know,
this all fits.
They could then put more money back into the economy by spending it on things rather than bills.
Yeah.
We're not going to.
No.
But we could.
This all fits quite nicely into a comical start to the show, isn't it? Like, asking for any level of decency or policy that would help anyone is as laughable now as it has ever been. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want us to do what? You want us to help people?
Yeah. Help who? The people.
What
no,
people?
Sorry.
The older people?
Yeah, I help a load of people.
The older people we can help.
Help
Big corporations, they need help. They're struggling.
Help my mate. help my brother. Help my sister-in-law. There's loads of people.
Yeah. I handed out loads of contracts to my mates during the pandemic. Don't know what you mean I'm not looking out for people.
I generated like £4 billion worth of...
Just for my mates alone. Like, and then I did furlough. Do you know what I mean?
A big business brain.
Do you know what I mean? It takes a lot of gall and wit to pull off.
And they are, despite popular claims to the contrary, people.
Yeah.
And I've helped them.
Yeah.
Therefore, I've helped people.
Yeah. Who's got two thumbs and cares about people? This guy. Would you be that sort of rich person, or would you like to think you'd be a philanthropist type figure that's just throwing money around and helping people?
I'd like to think I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, coming from...
You'd have a Bugatti, but you'd also give some money to a homeless shelter.
It's a fine line. Coming from, like, not any money, I know, you know, despite popular beliefs about me on this podcast.
Guys don't believe the hype. Take all of this with a pinch of
salt. On the one hand, you want to have stuff, you want to enjoy your money.
Yeah.
Do all the things you never even dreamed were possible. But on the other hand, you do remember where you came from.
Yeah.
You do know how much your money can make a difference to people. And you're closer to the real issues. So you want to help. I think that's a balance to strike. What about you? Where would you be on the scale?
I think as long as me and my family were secure, there's a certain point where you're like, what do I actually...
What am I going to do with this money?
If I can still go on several nice holidays a year, maybe even have a holiday home somewhere. If you've got like all the things...
Where would your holiday home be?
If you really had to push me, it'd probably be Greece or Turkey. I'd need to survey Turkey more because I've only been once, but otherwise it would be Greece because I've been there quite a bit and I love Greece. But Turkey is phenomenally beautiful. But yeah, what about you?
Don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, this is proper pie in the sky. This isn't actually genuinely like two Tories just talking about what house shopping they're going to do when they lose the next election.
No, I don't know. I think it'd just be somewhere where it's like perpetual sun, but not where, you know, not down in like the tropics or anything where you're at risk of massive storms and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I'd have to think a lot about it.
I think I'd look at the like maps of if shit hits the fan and like the world starts to die a little bit, what areas are gonna
be the last to be hit,
or that are likely to survive. You're probably looking at like North America. I might have a little house. in North America, just to be safe.
Just in the middle of you go join the little survivor communities up there.
Why not? I mean, I keep hearing
Preppers,
stories.
no, what are they preppers? That's what they're
like
called.
Zuckerberg just built a bunker somewhere. I can't remember where now, but like they're all doing it. Apparently, there's loads in New Zealand. Like billionaires have bought bunkers and shit.
Yeah, fine. You all moved to Switzerland.
Yeah.
They have a legal act that says that every person has to have access, every citizen has to have access to a nuclear bunker.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. Although I don't know how true this is. I actually heard recently that like a nuclear war wouldn't be what we think it is. Like it wouldn't necessarily be a nuclear winter because most of them are hydrogen bombs now and not atom bombs.
Oh, interesting.
So the damage to the earth wouldn't be the apocalyptic thing that, like the areas obviously that those bombs hit, pretty apocalyptic, but the areas around them aren't necessarily going to be destroyed by radiation.
We'll move to the outskirts.
Yeah. Or like if central London gets hit, I don't know how far that spreads. Maybe in the London boroughs you might be.
But if you live up on a hill outside of London and you think, I fucking hate the view of these skyscrapers.
One day
you
might be all right.
You could be in prime You could be like prime locations where you can
and
sell your
imagine
house
after a bit of rain, that hole will fill. You've got a beautiful lake.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You're on the beachfront.
Set yourself up a little business.
I like this, Jack.
Rent jet skis.
This is the sort of get up and go attitude
paragliding
for the impending apocalypse.
Well, people are going to want to have fun. They've been a bleak time.
Yeah.
They're going to want to pick themselves back up.
Jet skis is right up.
Rent a jet ski and just forget about the apocalypse.
Yeah, you can just come to this bit where it's sort of nice. Yeah, there's countless dead bodies in the very depths of these waters, but forget about that. It looks nice.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're out paddleboarding or whatever, and you do stick a body, shake it off, carry on.
That's what they say you should do if you're crossing the channel. No, it's too soon.
Somewhere you see, you put a clip like that on TikTok, and our followers go up. Not the kind of followers we want,
no.
But they would go up.
But no, I shouldn't make jokes like that because I've told off other people for doing that in the past. But the reason we're here to talk, Jay, is it's finally happening.
Is it?
It's happening.
You finally getting some use out of it? My man.
Look, I can't talk about that because of contractual obligations.
You signed the NDA.
I signed the NDA.
She made you sign the NDA, yeah.
All of them do. You'll understand one day. But no, other than that, the other thing's happening.
Yeah.
The thing it feels like we've been waiting for longer than 5 years, to be honest.
Don't think either of us called the time, did we?
No, I think you said May and I said November, if I remember. I've honestly thought it'd be as late as possible into the year. But for those who are living under a rock or who just wait for their political news,
or who don't live in the UK,
or don't live in the UK, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of England, has called a general election of the United Kingdom, rather, not just England.
I was wondering whether you were going to pick up on that.
Well, like, I just see it all as one thing.
Quite frankly, if we could fob him off on someone else, I'd be quite happy with that. But we don't need to because he's going to be gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's very likely he's going to be gone. I don't like to be too bullish about these things, but all the polling, I mean, and we'll get onto it, I'm sure, but pre-Dianne Abbott, because I think that might have an impact, not with the right vote, but certainly with the left. But pre-Dianne Abbott, the polls still very much show that the lead is widening for Labour rather than narrowing. So it's very likely he's going to be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
What did you think of the way, I mean, it's been memed, it was everywhere, but the way Rishi Sunak decided to do it?
Couldn't help but remember that they did actually, I know it's a very popular place to give a press conference, very traditional, on a lectern, on a podium outside of
Number
10. But they did actually spend quite a lot of money on an indoor conference room for COVID.
Yeah,
so there is actually quite a handy little space to do something like this.
Apparently there is like tradition and like the expectation is for that sort of announcement you do it.
Balls to that, it's raining. Let's...
I know, but your feelings towards like tradition and what you're supposed to do are very much like, no, go fuck yourself, I'll do what I want to do, rather than...
They are, yes.
Which is very much like Boris.
Slow your roll.
But that's where that slippery slope leads to, my friend. If you play fast and loose with the rules. But no, like it, in terms of optics, it wasn't good, was it? Like
it pretty much summed up the campaign before the campaign had begun.
Yeah. None of his campaign so far, the optics have been horrendous, from building a red wall to trying to play football with young people.
Did you see the
wearing
clip where someone had put the Peep Show audio over it?
No.
Where there's one where David Mitchell's character is trying to play football.
Okay.
And obviously trying to fit in. And so he's like, where do you play, mate? Midfield. He's like, oh, do you know all of them here and there, And he's like, did you guys see the match last night? What match? The big one. Real cracker. Really good stuff.
Sort of had that gaff anyway, didn't he? Because he went to Wales and was asking them, are you looking forward to all the football? And they had to be like, Wales ain't in it, mate.
Yeah. I mean, this also comes from the man who asked the homeless man in the homeless shelter in the soup kitchen if he had his own business.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, a year ago, whatever.
Oh, no.
He's like, do you
live?
run your own business? Yeah, no, it was honest.
Whereabouts do you live in the area? Under the underpass, mate.
Like, yeah, nice little house.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's a shelter. I don't know if you'd call it a house.
But honestly, phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's very much not a man of the people. And you see, he got the overnight train down to Penzance to kick off his campaign in Cornwall.
Wearing clothes that everyone reckons he just got out the rafters. All expensive as well. That sort of bothers me a little bit when, like, not that he's wearing expensive clothes, because I would expect him to be wearing expensive clothes, but how obsessed people are about it, and that, I don't know, like, clearly he was trying to look more relatable, which the optics of which wearing a £700 hoodie
wouldn't it be better for public relations? Maybe not, and I appreciate I'm not a PR man, I'm not a political spinner.
Another question then. How much would it take for you to work for the Conservatives to rebrand them?
I'd do it for free.
Would you?
Yep.
No, you got what? Because you reckon you do such a good job, it would pay for itself.
No, break them from the inside.
What, you would just make sure they had
no hope of recovery.
So would you assist them going as far right as humanly possible for them to?
I would, yeah.
No, but say post-election, it's all like Sunak's gone. There's like only a few Conservatives left, and they're like, we need guidance. We need a complete rebrand.
Yeah, I would do one or two things. Either push them to the left, depending on how many people are in there.
Yeah.
Left from the old school. Or, just destroy him. I'm more likely to just destroy him. No, but I'm not a political spin man. And I will ask you the same question after this. But would it not be better, because he's been criticised a lot for taking the chopper everywhere. Would it not be better if he just came out and they went, Prime Minister, you seem to take the chopper everywhere. He went, yeah, well, if you had a chopper, wouldn't you?
Would.
Would that not go down?
They're really dangerous.
Would that not go down better than trying to be like, oh no, I'm a man of the people? To be like, mate, I've got a helicopter. Of course, I'm going to fucking use it.
Well, I do think there's an argument of
I'm busy running the country. I can't spend 4 hours waiting for Southern to get their shit together.
There is an argument of that, isn't there? Of like, his job is fairly important. Like, whether you like him or not, the Prime Minister has a lot to do in a day, I would have thought. So
got to write his memoirs.
If you can get to Scotland in a few hours, or less than a few hours, or it'd be under an hour, depending on where it is, wouldn't it, to get to Scotland from London? Or get an 8-hour train to get there? It's obvious what one of the Prime Ministers should be doing. So I think in the past we have discussed that we think it's a bit harsh.
But do you think that would go down better than trying to play it down, to just come out and go?
I think definitely with a certain demographic. I think in general, honesty would go a lot. Because
you start going towards that point of, I can have a pint with him.
Yeah.
If you start saying those things.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, the thing is, he's so unrelatable, isn't he? And the optics have been horrendous. The way they've, and I don't know, why do you think he's done it? Because it's so unprepared, and it's obvious they've been completely unprepared, and he hasn't got a team in place. So, for me, I think he's called it because I think he's had enough. I think he's looked at it, gone, this isn't going to get any better.
I think it's against his party. I think he's just fed up of the party and the people in it, because he's been threatening it for a while, and it's been kind of keeping them in place a little bit.
I think he's doing it to punish them. Anything, though.
Wait, before we continue, what is your price to rebrand the Tories?
It would have to be that it was a rebrand to centre-left rather than...
So you're taking the right party, right-wing party, very right-wing.
My number one stipulation would be that it had to be to go centre-left.
So you're destroying any centre-right parties?
Yes. Yeah, fundamentally.
And how much?
I actually don't know. I'd need to look at like maybe $1 million. It depends
A
how long the
year,
contract
or-
is. Yeah, that's a good point. Is it for a year or?
It might be like the Watford gig. They might just cycle through and they'll be like, this is going terribly.
6 games.
Yeah.
Is at 10 mil for 6 months.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Yeah,
We're
I
going to go with
reckon
someone
like,
else.
if it was to rebrand or to continue like branding them as they've branded themselves, I don't know if there's any amount of money, because I can't support things like stopping the boats and the Rwanda deal and shit like that. The far right politics I can't get on board with. Because the thing is, right, if I was to get involved in politics in general, for me, it'd have to be doing the politics I believe in. And I can be okay with centre-left politics rather than being fully left.
But they're centre-right. What about bringing them back centre-right?
I could be more comfortable with that, but providing all the far-right shit was eradicated.
But that's part of your rebrand.
Then, yeah, I probably could. If it was to make it a sensible party that didn't have dickheads like Lee Anderson in and people like that, I'd want quite a bit of control over, like, me. I'd need to pick the leader or help pick the leader, and, you know, I'd almost be like the unofficial leader of the Conservative
Or at least
Party.
pick the candidates from which the members vote.
Yeah, I'd need a lot of control to be
I've heard that
comfortable
about
with
you
it.
in general.
No, but like I just think to be comfortable with rebranding something that has become so toxic, I'd need to know I've got the level of control necessary to change it in the right direction.
So it's such a calm and measured response compared to my burn them from the inside.
Well, no, like,
Get him
look,
down and kill the party.
I have, just like you, the entire time the Tories have been in power, been vehemently against them. I've called them scum. I've called them all the names under the sun. But I'm now at the place of like, right.
Order.
So
Order. Please.
fucking ready.
Scum. And you can't.
But like, yeah, like we're now in the position like we won essentially. Do you know what we haven't won yet, but like they're going to be gone. So like, I'm less angry at them now. I'm like, I'm more focused now on what comes next, and
I know what you mean.
I'm quite eager to focus.
You're trying to focus on the forward.
on Keir Starmer and whether he's someone we can trust. And
I'll never not be angry at them from what they've done to this country. You look at who we are, and they've just brought all the racism to the surface. They've brought all of the homophobia to the surface. They've turned us into this horribly toxic country to live in. The state of it is in absolute fucking shambles.
Yeah.
You know, people are dying, like literally dying because they can't get doctor's appointments, they can't get hospital appointments. People are dying in the corridors in hospitals.
yeah,
People are phoning up with fucking not heart attacks, but phoning up with ambulances and being told, sorry, you're not a high enough priority. We're not going to come and see you. Mental health services are being cut, and now all those people that are really struggling are being told, well, just get over it. So bad, you're having a bad day.
go back to work.
You know, I can't, just when I look at what the country is now compared to what it's been, any sense of national pride that I've ever felt is at the lowest it's ever been. You know, I've never been a particularly nationalistic person. Patriotic maybe, but nationalistic, no, I've never been a particularly nationalistic person. Certain things, you know, our self-deprecation, our willingness to, and this isn't just British, but this is a universal thing, but you know, we do it particularly well. The willingness to turn to humour in really dark times.
Yeah, which is something, all those sort of things are the things we've tried to carry into this podcast.
You know, the people, the football fans I think it was after the Charlie Hebdo attack, and we were playing out in France, I think, and we were shouting, you know, we were in the streets, football fans, English fans shouting, come on ISIS, where are you, let's have you. Stuff like that just makes me think, oh yeah, that makes me quite proud to be associated with that. It makes me quite proud to be English. But anything that I was ever proud of, you know, the biggest thing that I've always been proud of is, as a Brit, is the NHS.
Yeah.
It's the fact that healthcare is I believe is a right, not a privilege. That has been eradicated and destroyed, and it's being destroyed
I'll tell you what,
under these people.
before we go back to the politics, you've actually quite nicely segued into something I was going to ask you later on if we had the time, but while we're on it, we might as well.
No, I haven't even had that cleared up because of the waiting lists.
No, not that. I told
Oh,
you
no.
I don't need to know
So,
about that. That you just keep that to yourself. I know we talked about we need to share more, but on those things, unless you need help in some way, which, to be honest with you, even if you did, you've said you wouldn't blow me to suck snake venom out, so I don't know what you think I'm going to do.
I'm sorry, bro.
You.
You're just going to have to die.
But on the NHS, I personally don't think it's savable anymore. And it was something I wanted to talk to you about because I think we've reached the breaking point already. And to sort of fix it would require a level of investment, changing of the NHS, and I don't know if we can't get the staff in without changing our immigration policy back to a more
that's
open.
something we do have to do.
And even Labour are saying they're not going to do that. They want to fill the roles from within, but we already know that's not possible. So we're going to have to change on that. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But so we can't fill the positions. We've then got this continuous issue with doctors' pay, and they're going to strike again just before the general election starts. I believe their opening offer is they want a 35% pay rise, but obviously that's not, I don't think, what they're actually expecting to get, but it's where they're starting at. But again, both Labour and the Conservatives have said they're not willing to even discuss it with them. And the union, quite rightly, has come out and said even Labour could sit down and talk with us about it now. We understand they're not in a position to actually
enact it, but
do
we can
anything,
get the ball
but
rolling.
we could at least be having a dialogue, and they're not willing to do it. So I look at the NHS, I look at as you've pointed out, the amount of people that are dying because they're not being seen. And I think the only way to meet the demand is to bring in more privatisation, or at least hire private companies to come in and fulfil the work.
See, I think the first thing we need to do, well, there's many first things we need to do, but I think the first thing we need to do is we need to readdress the immigration issue with regards to working in healthcare. If you're working in healthcare, I think there should be a fast track route for you to be able to get through from anywhere in the world. And I think it should also allow you to be able to bring your family over here, your immediate family. Maybe let's not get
carried away.
I appreciate issues with immigration. There's still issues with
But
immigration for the general
four or five
public.
people or something like that.
No, 4 or 5 people. You know, a partner, a domestic partner, and children can come with you, and let's just kind of draw the line there. Just to try and encourage people to say that they're not giving up their entire lives to come here and work here. Then obviously, yeah, you do need to address the pay issue from top to bottom. I think one thing I found from the NHS and from speaking to people that worked in the NHS and stuff is that one thing I think needs completely restructuring, and it's a huge undertaking, I appreciate that, is that there's way too much middle management, way too many people
Probably all on bloated salaries.
Yeah, way too many people on pay bands that don't actually do anything. They don't add to the productivity. They don't add to the... Well, productivity is it really. They don't actually add to it. They just make it more difficult because you've got to go through them to get through this, to get to the... And all they're doing is taking a salary. They're still doing a job, but they're doing the same job as the people below them, essentially.
Yeah.
And they're not doing the job of the people above them. So I think we need to restructure and get rid of a large chunk of the middle management. That's just from speaking to people that work and having...
I think the really easy way to boil down what you're saying is, because I completely agree, is the NHS needs to be run as a business, right? But not a profitable business.
No.
It needs to be run in a way so it loses as little money as possible.
But except it will lose money.
But it will lose money. Those are just... But that's... I don't know. That's not something we seem comfortable with. I think part of that is the fact there's lots of people who make money out of the NHS, so they don't want... But the fact, like, for me, there should be a logistical arm to the NHS, like almost an Amazon-style logistical system that just has, it's our centre point. It does all the ordering for all of the hospitals and then distributes it to those hospitals, rather than hospitals having to individually go and try and source the things they need and paying wildly different amounts between hospitals. That shouldn't be happening. We should have one big powerhouse unit within the NHS that deals with all of that for all of them, and they just put into an NHS system, we need X, Y and Z this week, and that distribution arm will deliver it to them. And again, that's a huge undertaking, but this is where I sort of come back to my opinion where it can't be fixed, because none of these things are going to be done. They're all quite like simple solutions, but they're not easy to deliver.
They're not going to be done. But they can be done.
But so then we need to get into why aren't they going to be done. Part of that, for me, a big part, is I don't think the general public, like, I think we like the idea of these being fixed, but then when you actually need to have a conversation about what that looks like, and quite often it's quite socialistic, social ideals of like, and like quite radical ideals.
But
people aren't comfortable with that.
No, and I appreciate that. But at its core, the concept of free healthcare is quite a socialist ideal.
It's completely so. It was.
So you can't run it without incorporating some kind of
100%. And I think like the head of the NHS should be quite a higher paid person, but the standards of what they should be delivering should be incredibly high as well. Like there should be.
That's the other thing that the NHS would benefit, is that something what I've spoken to you before, well, we've both spoken about before, is that ministers should have to come from the sector. They should have had to have, and I don't mean in a consultancy role.
Yeah.
But I don't want someone heading
Who's
up the
never
NHS
worked in social
who's never
care
been
or
in healthcare. I don't want someone heading up schools and education system who's never worked in a school.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Or even if they worked in educational oversight, so they know the mechanisms of how education works and things like that. It needs to be. I would imagine traditionally that is exactly how things were meant to work. That the person who held that position, you know, like Rishi Sunak was Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's got experience working in banking, so like, you know, that at least checks out that he's worked in finance. Obviously, he wasn't very good at it. He did well in finance, just not for the country. But yeah, no, look, all of it, whether it's the NHS or anything else, it requires, for me, quite radical change. That's not what we're being offered. It's not what the public is seeming to clamour for, which I find odd.
Because we don't know what you've got till it's gone. It's inconceivable to the British public. A, it's inconceivable to the British public that the NHS wouldn't exist. And B, it, you know, in a way, it's the Titanic. It's unsinkable. It's like, but it can't fail. And B, it's right now. It's easy to just go, well, it's not broken. There's too many immigrants using it. Yeah. Do you know, whatever the thing is, it's like, well, immigrants actually prop up the NHS. They're actually the ones fucking working for it, making it work.
Benefit to the NHS rather than a negative. I think the other problem is when you have an issue with the NHS, that's who you're having the issue with. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're having to wait 8 months to get an appointment or you can't see your GP, it's the NHS that's the...
Rather than the government.
Yeah, that's what you're seeing. And like, or if someone's shitty with you at the hospital because they're overworked and underpaid, that's the person you're having the issue with, not the government or the NHS underpaying them and overworking them. And yeah, it's interesting. It seems very easy for people to blame the smaller part rather than the larger. Do you know what I mean?
And it's interesting because the NHS is, like I've said, I have a very personal attachment to it because I do believe it is the single greatest thing about this country, politically speaking, you know, from that kind of side of things. But
we've just got to look at America to see what the other side of the coin looks like. People
being bankrupt because someone called an ambulance.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing of, I know we've said it before, the stories of people, Americans in other countries with healthcare, like either, you know, Canada or here in the UK or in Europe, and being like, oh my God, someone needs to administer first aid. And they're like, whoa, you didn't ask him if you... Because it's like basically you're about to fuck him financially if you don't, you know, or he's going to, okay, that's more like, oh, they're going to sue you, but they'll sue you because they've got a huge medical bill that you've just brought on. Yeah. Like, just let the man die. It's cheaper. Yeah. But anyway, it's interesting to me that the NHS, to me, is a huge thing. It's been run into the ground and it is at a breaking point. Something needs to be done.
And I think that's been done deliberately.
And yet, it's 100% been done deliberately. It's fucking lining pockets of people all over the place. And when when privatisation comes in, obviously privatisation is coming in and it is getting bigger and bigger.
It's already happening.
When privatisation completely replaces the NHS, then there's going to be a few people at the top who are going to be very, 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 very rich.
Well, the mental thing is to run it privately or to hire private companies to fulfil the parts that the NHS can't do itself. It costs so much more than fixing the issue. And that's what I find mental, that it's not complicated, it's not difficult, but we've just allowed ourselves to be hoodwinked. And then the private treatment you receive is so much superior to the NHS treatment that people are like, well, actually, it wouldn't be that. Forgetting that even though the service is superior, they're not getting the bill for it. Whereas when it's actually private, they will get the bill for it.
Well, also, when things go wrong in the private sector, where do they take you as a patient?
to the NHS to cover up.
That's the long and the short of it. I don't think people fully grasp that. It's like, what they can do is they can give you quicker diagnosis on certain stuff. They can run blood tests. They can they can hand out prescriptions and stuff. But when you need to do, and they can do some surgeries and stuff. But for the more serious surgeries,
you get sent
and for
back
the more
to
serious
NHS.
healthcare, you get sent back to the NHS, and you just the private people just help you skip the queue and whatever. But ultimately, it's the NHS who are doing the service, who are completing the service. Yeah.
No, totally. So like, I guess,
and that's the thing as well, is you're talking about when privatisation, it's cheaper to fix the issues than it is to keep leasing it out to the private things. But the difference is when you fix the issues, the NHS is the beneficiary. When you lease it out to the private sector, you're the beneficiary.
Yeah, whoever it is that owns shares in those companies.
That's all it boils down to.
Yeah.
Anyway, it baffles me that the NHS doesn't seem to be one of the talking points. That's what I was getting at. That doesn't seem to be one of the things that this election's being fought on.
And I think that's because no one's willing to spend the money it would take.
It's tax and border control that this seems to be being fought on.
And the problem is, like, currently Labour can't. They could, on principle, they could go against the anti-border stuff, and they have. And Starmer has said no planes when he's Prime Minister. Like, there might be one that's unfortunately slips through because of timing, because he won't technically be in charge and sworn in and whatever, and by the time it takes off, but that when he's Prime Minister, no plane will take off and he will scrap the policy. So that's like one good thing.
Yeah.
Promise.
But they're still talking about trying to tighten up border security. They're still talking about, and they're talking about taxes. Who do you tax? Where do you tax? Because Starmer's again done a complete 180. I don't know if you saw the clip of, can't think of her name.
Rachel Reeves?
No, it was a journalist on Sky, I think it was, asking him about the tax cuts. And basically the point she was making was, you're saying these things now, but then you're not. You've said these things in the past and now you're going back on them.
Beth
Rigby. But then she kind of really focused in on one of the specific points. He said, we can't afford it. And she went, well, you can afford to tax the top 5%.
Yeah.
And he went,
what's
no,
that got to do with affording?
He said, no, he said, we can't afford to do that. But you can afford that. That is a policy that you can afford. So why are you going back on it? Why should people trust you? Because it's not even like you're saying, you're saying, oh, we can't afford it. And in a way, that's a good thing, to be honest and say, look, that is the thing, you actually can afford to. And there was a poll of millionaires not that long ago, and 67%, I think it was in the 60s, said that they were willing to pay more tax.
Yeah.
Obviously saying that because they know it's not going to come true, maybe.
The really frustrating thing is the millionaires aren't even really the issue in this country.
It's the billions.
It's the billions. That's the money that's not trickling down.
And the corporates.
Millionaires are able to hide a little bit of tax, but they haven't quite got the wealth to really hide huge swathes of their wealth. They're buying property, they're doing that side of things, where it's the people with billions that are doing all of it on.
Yeah, when you've got 5 billion in the bank and you're paying like 30 million tax a year.
But they're an endangered species in this country now. Apparently, we've got less billionaires now than we've ever had, allegedly.
Thank God someone's doing something right.
Yeah, I think it's more that they've just moved away.
Left the sinking ship.
Yeah, basically. And there's such a long list of people like that. One of the big ones for me was Dyson. Like, apparently they've had irreparable damage done to their reputation because of the way he behaved, particularly during COVID, and the way he bangs on about everything being British, but all of his products are built abroad.
Everywhere but.
Yeah, in the cheapest places possible. But no, like, I've got a question here. If I asked you to pick, I don't know what I meant by that question, so we're going to move on to something else instead, proper smooth.
Do you want to do the car crash?
No, because I've got to find that. There we go. Talking about trusting Starmer then.
Relatively smooth. I mean, I don't know the question, but it seems...
No, I wrote a question about who's the biggest victim of the last 14 years, and I don't really know what I meant by that. It would have made sense to me when I wrote it down, but as to what I actually meant, I don't know. But the question I'll ask instead is about Dianne Abbott. We've talked about her before, particularly in relation to the level of racist abuse and abuse in general she's faced. She is, just for those who don't know who she is, she has always been a Labour MP and politician. I believe she served Labour for around about 50 years, not completely as an MP, but she's been a member for 50 years. She, about a year ago, and I think we talked about it at the time, didn't we? She did a column or a piece where she made comment about the fact Jews and Gypsies and Romanis don't face the same level of racial persecution and judgment as black people do. And she likened it more to the sort of bullying a ginger person faces. Which, by the way, I went to school with quite a few ginger people. They did not have a good time. Do you know what I mean? But she was suspended from the party. She's been suspended from the party for the last year. It's been confirmed she did a anti-Semitism awareness course as part of her
rehabilitation.
Yeah. But she's been left in limbo, and then, unbeknownst to everyone, including Dianne Abbott and apparently Sir Keir Starmer, she has had the whip restored, so she's now back being a Labour MP, but has been told she will not be allowed to stand as a Labour MP in the general election.
I saw a statement from Keir Starmer on that.
Yeah, he's saying it's not true.
He's saying that she can stand.
Yeah, but she's saying she's been told she can't.
Yeah.
So which one of them's...
Don't know.
I don't really know what reason she'd have to lie, because...
No, and I don't... Obviously, top politicians do lie, so the way that Keir's lying is...
I've watched quite a lot, and the general thing they're trying to get away with is there's an executive committee that handles, and it's supposedly an independent body.
So sorry,
the way you just gently caress the mic. That's a bit of ASMR for the listeners.
ASMR.
Is that the way you say ASMR, just to whisper it?
ASMR. Yeah.
That's Jake's contribution for the rest of the pod. He's just going to go, ASMR.
Ask me a question and see what I say.
Jake, how do you feel about the Dianne Abbott situation?
I actually think that there's quite a deep, in-depth... I don't know why she's... Again, I think if she says she's been told that, then she probably has been told that.
Well,
and she's probably just trying to play politics.
Yeah.
To say, no, she can stand. You better fucking not stand.
The thing is now, it has very much become a no-win situation for Sir Keir Starmer, because either it looks like he's shown very little leadership, sort of fucked her over, to be honest, and because what I've heard is the people from Labour that work in her area have all said that the general understanding was that she's quite tired, she's quite fed up after all the years of abuse and stuff, the last year of being strung along, and that the agreement she had with the Labour leadership was that she would have the whip restored, but then she would announce that she would not stand in the next election, and that she was basically going to retire. But because of the way they've handled it and said that she's barred from being a Labour MP in the next election, she's now gone, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to run no matter what, whether it's as Labour, independent, whatever, go fuck yourselves, I'm going to be an MP.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely situation, is that she's been told, yeah, there's been an agreement, and then they've bundled it. There
is obviously an elephant in the room of, you know, they've welcomed in Natalie Elphicke, a right-wing figure. They forgave, I can't remember his name, another MP who drunkenly racially abused someone he was working with. But Dianne Abbott, someone who was served very well, come under more scrutiny. And
this is the thing, though, is that Dianne Abbott, like you said, has been a servant for a very long time in the Labour Party, and so she represents some of that older Labour, and therefore she represents a more left-wing Labour.
She was very much part of Jeremy Corbyn's Labour and the left wing of Labour the entire time.
Even the Blair Brown years, you know, she was very much a pioneer in front foot in the relaunch of Labour, or New Labour, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
As it turned out to be branded, but it's obviously not the direction Sir Keir wants to go. And I think anyone who's got ties to that old Labour...
See, I don't think it's old Labour, I think it's left. I think anything on the left.
Yeah, old Labour left, I'm sort of bundling in together there, but...
Literally just before recording, so I'd forgive you if you hadn't seen it. Have you seen what Angela Rayner said?
No.
That she sees no reason why Dianne Abbott shouldn't be allowed to stand as a Labour politician in the next election, which is quite a bold thing to do.
To go almost against your
leader. I mean, I think he's handled this appallingly, because what she said, because she issued a speech yesterday, which I watched, and she said, no one's had a conversation with me, no one's contacted me, I just find out I've been barred from, she's like, no one sat down, she's after how long I've served Labour, someone even Keir Starmer should have sat down and had a conversation with me and said, look, this is where I stand, you're not going to be allowed to be an MP for Labour anymore. But he could have still done it, that she was allowed to resign rather than... But like the wider issue here is, and we've had an issue with it in the past, of Keir Starmer trying to purge the party of the left, and it sort of it diminishes my argument of previous episodes of saying I think he's just trying to get everyone in, because he's not trying to get everyone in. He's quite clearly excluding one side. And
do you think, and this is very extreme what if, so go with it, okay?
Yeah.
Just suspend belief for a moment. Do you think there's a chance that the Conservative Party get completely wiped out? Okay, they've gone so right wing that only the most fanatical Nigel Farage nut jobs will give them a look in, and even they're probably looking to someone like Reform rather than to the Conservatives. Meanwhile, Labour are dragging themselves over to the right in a desperation to try and be central, and they just tip the scales and go a little bit too far to the right. Now, Labour are a centre-right party, and the Conservatives relaunch themselves as a centre-left party. To go, we can't go, that right-wing thing didn't work. We go the other way, and we go the other way, and we go centre-left. Do you think there's a possibility that they switch in the next sort of like 15, 20 years?
Longer term, maybe. I think personally, I have very little faith in what's left of the Conservative Party. I can completely anticipate them, or like imagine them after the next election being decimated and going, we didn't go far enough, boys. Do you know what I mean? We need to go further than Farage. I'm more concerned, if I'm being honest, about what Labour will do with that sort of power, because there's no like successor to the shadow cabinet. Do you know what I mean? There's no backup to the Conservatives waiting to come flying in. I've no faith in the Lib Dems, like led by Ed Davey, who seems to really love paddleboarding.
Oh my God, he looks like he's having a fucking whale of a time on this campaign, though. By the way,
he does.
He was paddleboarding, he was cycling, he was just having an absolute hoot,
enjoying the weather.
Whereas Rishi Sunak stuck himself on an overnight train, going, "The fuck am I not on a plane? What the fuck is this shit?"
I've never travelled like this in my life.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Do you work here? I've just noticed are there other people on this train?
I haven't got this to myself.
What?
Yeah.
You know, but Ed Davies, whereas Keir Starmer's fighting off, issues of without ever saying it. Are you a racist, Keir?
Yeah.
What's your problem? Are you a misogynist? What's your problem with Dianne Abbott?
Yeah. That's the thing. Other than her being left-leaning, I can't understand what the problem is. And it makes me wonder, is this going to split the left vote and then potentially risk Labour's huge majority?
Maybe.
Because I think it's quite a bit like because there's people like yourself who are already against them because of their handling of Israel and Palestine, which I completely understand. Well, not theirs, Keir Starmer's handling of Israel and Palestine, because there's plenty of Labour politicians that I would have thought disagree with him quite wildly. But I don't know. I think between that, Dianne Abbott, the general purging of the left, and the trend of leaning to the right, my faith that something good might happen with Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. It feels like with each passing week, he does more and more to make me go, fuck's sake, Keir, come on.
What's really frustrating as well is the representation in the media. So whenever they've started doing, obviously, not quite debates, not quite panels, but where they get sort of lesser members of the party rather than the top bods.
Yeah.
To start appearing on things like Question Time and things like that. And panel shows where they can debate the issues of today, Politics Today on various channels. We've got their own version of Politics Today and radio stations. There's always seems to be a representation of Labour, Conservatives, which I get, the two biggest parties in the country, historically, currently, whatever. And then you don't often get a Lib Dem, you never get a Green, who are all actually standing in the party. What you get is someone like Nigel Farage who pops on. Who's like, the fuck have you got to do with a general election, you dickhead?
It's funny, I listen to the news agents, which is quite good sometimes to listen to.
Is that Gemma Fort and...
I can't remember. It's
Marina
Lewis
Perkins?
Goodall.
No,
it's Lewis Goodall, a famous male newscaster. And is it Emily Maitlis?
Okay, yeah.
And they're quite good. But it was Lewis Goodall and the other fella talking. And they were like, Nigel Farage is the honorary head of reform. He's not standing. He's not a politician. He's a presenter of his own show now. What the fuck is he doing as part of the national debate?
Thank God they were asking it as well.
They said they've never seen anything like it, that someone that actually technically has zero involvement in the political debate is
No
being
direct
given
involvement.
so much
Airtime.
and it's baffling, because they were like, they'd understand if it was Richard Tice, because he's the actual head of reform, he's running for a seat, I believe, so they were like, that makes sense. But for it to be Farage, someone who quite clearly knows he hasn't got a chance of getting a seat, and so yeah, no, it is weird. But no, that's also something Caroline Lucas has mentioned before, that she's always been disappointed with the representation
Because
of
with all
the
due
Greens.
respect, okay, it's a kind of chicken and egg situation in a way. It's a cyclical thing. And on the one hand, you go, well, the Greens aren't really going to get many seats. And it's like, yeah, but maybe they're not going to get in many seats because no one knows who the fuck they are. 'Cause they've got no representation.
Yeah.
No one ever hears them or sees them or knows that they even exist. Other people probably don't even know that they're running in their area.
No.
And then, they don't get many seats, so they don't get, just kind of cycle round.
Yeah.
But the Greens certainly get shafted. But even I've noticed in this, I know technically the election campaign's only been going on for a week or so now.
Yeah, just a week now.
But realistically, we've all known it's going to be an election year, whether it's an early election or late election. We've all known it's an election year, so there's been campaigning has been going on from the off.
Yeah.
And even from the start of the year, even the Lib Dems haven't really been represented.
No.
What chance have we got of breaking that? I know we're never going to break the two-party system, but what chance have we got of even giving it a run for its money if we never let anyone else speak?
No. But the thing is, again, I think that's by design. I don't think the more parties there are vying for control, the less the media has an influence. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's two parties, they can pressure those two parties to sort of lean in the ways they want them to lean. But if you've got 3 or 4 parties, they've got less, there's more to do. There's more moving parts. It's more difficult and they can't do it as effectively. And I think that's exactly why people like the Greens aren't shown. Because, I mean, to be fair, like, there's no manifestos for us to sit down and look at still, which I still don't really understand.
Labour have released a manifesto.
Have they actually released?
Yeah.
I thought they released 10 pledges. They haven't actually released.
Oh, okay. They've released part of it.
Because I looked it up maybe 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah, I looked it up
as of 2 days ago, they'd released their 10 pledges, but not
a full manifesto.
And neither of the Conservatives, they've not released a manifesto. I think they're basically sort of.
Do you think they will? Either of them?
Labour have said they will before the general election.
Yeah, okay.
But the Conservatives, to my knowledge, haven't promised to release one. And like, that's just. I mean, admittedly, as we've said, it's what's called a snap election. It's very last minute. I believe there was only 6 weeks between the announcement and the election, so that again feels deliberate for people to have less time to actually organise themselves, research themselves, and anyone who might not have the ID to vote in the next general election are very unlikely to be able to get one between now and the next election. And again, I think all of that is deliberate. I think they try to marginalise and stop as many people voting as possible, particularly if they're not the demographics that they want. And I think that's why the only shit the Conservatives are promising, to move on to one of the things they have announced since the election, is they want to introduce national service.
Yeah, which we haven't even talked about. By the way, can I just... Okay, how are we for time? We good for time?
We've probably got about 20 minutes.
Okay, good. Right. How do you think you'd fare?
Horrific.
Unfortunately, you and I are both, and I say unfortunately, gosh darn it, we're both outside of the conscription age.
It's fun. What was your... before we go into detail of it, what was your initial reaction when you heard it? Like, what's your feeling towards national
very
service?
Similar to the woman who... I don't know if you saw this. There's a great clip that's just been doing the rounds today. So Rishi Sunak was like giving a speech somewhere,
of her in the background.
IRL lady, who then they send the bloke in to stand in front of.
You notice they pan the camera away slightly
Yeah,
as well.
and it's brilliant
Because she
because
starts laughing and
he
shit.
clearly
doesn't she?
gets the text of like, you need to go stand here, and then he's obviously it looks very much like he's texting them back, being like, am I blocking her? Am I blocking her? Whatever. Brilliant. But
They
my
might as
reaction
well
was
have
very
clubbed her and carried her
My
away.
reaction was very much like that. It was like, national service. What are you talking about, you pillocks? Even the former Lord of the Sea, or whatever the official title is, has come out and said, I'm all for encouraging people to have a bit of nationalistic pride and a bit of interest in the our side of things. I can't remember how he worded it, but in the Navy and in the Army and the Air Force and stuff. He's like, but this is absolute balderdash. He's like, this is a nonsensical idea. It's just stupid.
See, I probably feel.
Where did you fall?
My overall opinion of national service isn't necessarily a negative one. But what I would add to that is, if I was 17 now, and I heard that from the government, I know for a fact my attitude would be, go fuck yourselves.
Here's the thing, okay? There's two things on this. 3 things maybe, but 2 things that I want to just touch upon. One, once again, when pushed, because initially they were like, no, and then pushed, they said that there might be fines for the parents of children, people who don't enlist.
Or people going to prison.
No, but they said fines, right? So it's like, fine. Okay, one, as the saying goes, if the punishment is a fine, then it's only a crime for the poor.
Yeah.
And 2, these people are adults. You're talking about 18 being the age for national service. Why are you going to fine one adult for the actions of another adult?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But also, once again, it's another pledge is not the right word. Tactic. What's the word? What's the thing? A policy.
Yeah.
That is directly targeting negatively in their lives.
People.
Young.
Mm.
The young people. Young people are once again being given the fucking shaft.
Yeah.
I saw, is it Marina Perkis?
Yeah.
On
Was
Jeremy
she on
Vine.
Jeremy Vine? I think we've
Give
seen the
this
same clip.
brilliant 30-second clip where she just sort of said, like, what the fuck are, people are talking about young people need a bit of pride and disrespect. So what the fuck have young people got to be proud for? All the things that they're, and we said it before, all the aspirations that their parents and their grandparents would have had do not exist for them.
No.
Their life is tough, it's shit. And there's no real way out at the moment, no foreseeable way out.
Yeah.
So what's the answer? Let's just shaft them again. And also, once again, if you're using national service to plug a gap somewhere else in the line, once again, you're saying the old people have fucked up. And I know this is a real oversimplification, but go with me on it.
Yeah.
You're saying us oldies have fucked it up, and you young people are going to have to pay the price.
Yeah.
We're going to get away with it scot-free, and you're going to pay all the damage that we've done.
To be honest, whether national service is introduced or not, we know that's exactly what's happening as we speak, isn't it? Like, I mean, the Conservatives have promised to quadruple lock the state pension, by which basically that means currently the triple lock, because I didn't understand what any of this meant.
Isn't it?
The triple lock pension basically means that by a bare minimum, every year the state pension will go up by 2.5% or in line with inflation, whatever the
And let's be honest,
number is.
it'll be inflation.
Yeah. But what that would mean in general is a very small amount. But it's just interesting to me that the Rishi Sunak's response to being so far behind in the polls is to go, I'm going to alienate the young even more.
But then again, we've said it before, generally and historically, young people don't vote.
No, that's very
true.
true.
So if you are trying to win an election or even just call back some pride in the election, it's a wasted vote on young. I'm not just cynically, just from devil's advocate.
A clever move from Starmer is to then say, well, actually, I would make it the voting age 16, hasn't he? Which actually, to be honest with you,
if you can work and you can pay...
If you can pay taxes and work at that age, then I can't see why. If you really wanted to, like, be nitpicky about it, you could say a 16-year-old that's working and paying tax is allowed to vote. Do you know what I mean? If that's the way you want to do it. But no, like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever, because none of these things are going to happen. We're not going to have a national service. We're not going to have the... I think Labour have made positive noises about protecting the state pension and things like that, but they haven't committed to...
Also, the national service thing appeals to... We've spoken again about this ideal in the world, in the UK in particular, about this whole mighty Brits in the World War II and whatever, that all comes from people who never actually fought in World War II.
Yeah,
and their parents didn't even really fight. It's really their grandparents.
It's of this romanticised idea of being part of the armed forces.
They never lived through it.
Like I said to Dianne when we were talking about it, must have been yesterday, and I said to her, like, for me, I'd want a national service that has a reward at the end of it. So, like, whether you went and decided to serve, but I'd want it to be for a longer time scale, not a month in the military or one weekend every other month at a charity or in the civil service. It would be you go and work for that organisation or volunteering somewhere for a number of years, but you'll get a bit of money, and at the end of it, we'll fund your degree in whatever it is you want to go on to do.
Well,
Or
there's
cover the
another
cost.
thing we can talk
Something
about.
like that.
But just quick, the national service thing is like, again, people who are born in the 60s and 50s who have this real thing about like, oh, back in my day, it's like, the fuck are you talking about back in your day? And if you ask the people who actually did fight in the wars, that's the one thing they don't want is for people to sign up and go to fucking war.
Yeah.
They're not touting around on this. Like, I know most of them, there's very few that are even still alive, but they weren't touting around on this for the most part. There obviously were some on this, like, you know, high and mighty, God, do them good, get back in the army and all that. It's like, no, war is hell. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Again, it's these people going, yeah, well, that's what the young people need. It's like, yeah, but again, that's what the young people need. You're not going to have to do it, are you?
Yeah.
You're just enforcing this thing, this picture that you've got in your head on someone else. But let's talk about something else then quickly.
Go for it.
You're talking about, I want you to fund my degrees. They're talking about, as they have done for the last year or so, cutting degrees.
Yeah, like the nonsense ones, as they would call them.
Yeah, but what's a nonsense degree? If someone chooses to go and study, and
The
then we
arts
lose the arts. You know, we lose. You know, if you boil it down, there's probably very few degrees that actually give you good job prospects.
If we're being really honest, the moves from the Conservatives feel very I can't say the fucking word. Can you say it? Authoritarian. Is that right? That's what it feels like. It feels like these are moves of a dictator state. They find a way to restrict the amount of people that are in the arts that might
cross your freedom
call
and
attention to the shit we get up to, and like national service make them feel connected to the system. And
they also read, like, if you fed 30 years worth of the Daily Mail into an AI and said, right, create a person, it's going to be a person who believes in these things. National service cutting pointless university degrees.
Is, the polls have shown the people that support these ideas are the over 60s and those people that would normally vote for Reform or UKIP or the Conservatives. So, like, it's very clear who they're going after. But again, that still doesn't make sense to me, because if you're trying to win a general election, that's not the way you win a general election, by just sticking to your base. It's why I've made the argument with you in the past that I think some of the moves Keir Starmer makes I can understand, or at the very least accept, because I think that's perhaps the right way to go. Like, you sometimes have to, there's a bit of give in your beliefs, but like I said to you, if I was involved in politics, I don't see the point of being involved in politics if you're not going to stick to fundamentally what you believe in. And I spoke to you and Steers about it in a group chat. Like, I'm so confused when it comes to Sir Keir Starmer, because if you look at the man pre-politics or even early politics,
he's principled. He's
a very principled man. He's left-leaning. Like, if you just go and Google what Jeremy Corbyn was promising in his Labour manifesto, right? Whatever you think of him as a person, but like, Keir Starmer was happy to be stood on that platform and say, like, this is what I believe in. And like, in his career pre-politics, very principled man. But as soon as he's got any level of power and like I said, I can only pray that that's because he just wants to get power, and then he'll start doing decent things. But like I said, every week that goes by, every mistake that he makes or choice that he makes, my faith in that dwindles quite quickly.
Yeah, you know how I feel on it.
No, I know you do, mate. Like, but fuck, then what do we do? Like, because otherwise, like, it's very reminiscent of a Boris government in the sense of purging your party of whoever doesn't agree with you and doing whatever the fuck you want. And that, if you take away my argument, that's basically what he's doing. But we just don't know what he stands for in the meantime.
So we riot.
Well, look, that will be the only option available to us if shit gets worse post general election.
We'll fill the prisons because protesting is illegal. Do you think they'll undo that bill?
No, I don't think they will. They've said as much that they won't.
No.
I think the most I've heard positively towards that is that they'll look at it. They'll make it worse. Because the thing is, it's the same reason why as soon as the polls turned massively in Labour's favour, suddenly there was rumours that Labour were looking at changing how we do elections, getting rid of the first past the post system and making it more proportional, because that would benefit them in the long run, having a massive majority. Like it's scary shit. So yeah, I'd like to say, because the thing is, the song blaring to take it back to the beginning when Rishi Sunak announced the election was "It can only get better," and I'm not sure that's true, and I have as little faith currently as I have for the last 7 years, maybe, that things would get better.
It's at a low, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is at a low,
and like, it shouldn't feel that way. Like, for me, the only path forward is to give people hope, and that's not what they're doing, either side. So,
but the fact is, in a couple of months, there will be a change of government.
Yeah, and we might have to be prepared to take things further than just talking about it on a podcast and potentially risk being arrested.
Again, I also think it would be beneficial
And
to
that's
Starmer.
when I say that, I'm not talking about let's go and destroy property, but I'm talking about demonstrating. I'm talking about taking to the streets and
Marching.
I
also think it would be quite beneficial to Starmer on the election campaign if he just sort of turned up to everyone and went, I don't even, he said, I'm just going to read you a list of Rishi Sunak quotes. I don't need to campaign for myself. This man's going to campaign for us.
Yeah.
Here's what he said on tax benefits.
Well, the thing is,
here's what he said on
pre-Dianne Abbott, the Labour campaign thus far has been a lot smoother and well managed in comparison to Rishi Sunak's.
Yeah.
But I think that just off of anything else will show that Labour have been waiting for a general election to be called, whereas no one in the Conservatives was ready for this election to be called. They were all expecting, like,
end of the year.
The same day it got announced, he was asked in Parliament by Stephen Flynn, when are you going to call a general election? And he said it will be in the second half of the year. And technically, he's telling the truth, but...
Yeah, misleading though, isn't it?
Yeah, he could have told the House first that actually, funny you mentioned that, I'm calling it today. Or it's going to be on the 6th of July.
It'll be a little early birthday present for me.
When's your birthday?
8th.
Oh, nice.
So, election on the 6th.
You'll be away though, won't you?
Announcements on the 7th. Yes, I will
Have
be away.
you applied to postal vote yet?
I'm already registered to postal vote.
Oh, nice. So they should send you.
Just the last time they sent it to me too late.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually get to vote in the London mayoral election.
But I don't know how it works. I know we've talked about it briefly before, but there are you can get
proxies.
some proxies.
Yeah, I can get a proxy.
So
I'll tell you now, I'm getting these fuckers out.
Yeah.
I'm playing my part in getting these fuckers out.
Yeah.
I can't sit here for 4 years talking about how much I fucking hate them and then not do anything, sit back, and I'm a big talker of like, you've got to vote, you've got to vote, that's your voice.
If they make it impossible for you to do it through a poor mail service and shit like that, there's also not a lot you can do about that.
No, but I stand here talking about you've got to vote. It's really important to wear your voice, and I know right now you don't want to vote because you don't know, no one represents you, no one feels represented. But I have the power to try and get these fuckers out. Yeah. I've got to try. I can't just go, well, I'm out of the country.
And actually, a good thing to mention while we're talking about voting is the Vorders. Carol Vorderman has been promoting stopthetories.vote, which is a group / website that will give you, if you put your postcode in,
tell you who to vote for,
tell you who you should vote for tactically to get rid of the Conservatives. Because she said very publicly her aim is to annihilate the Conservatives. She doesn't want them to even be able to form an opposition. So and I'll put it in the link to the episode.
I think I think if they have to form some kind of like, I think Count Binface should stand at the next general election, right? And I think he should. I think he should lead the opposition.
He should form a coalition of opposition.
Yeah, because I would love to see him standing up every Wednesday.
It'd be interesting to see how that looks, because we've never seen that in our lifetime. Not in terms of Count Binface, but I mean like a coalition of opposition.
No.
And like who? I mean, obviously, I imagine the leader will be based off of whoever has the most seats out of the coalition. And then I'd imagine their shadow cabinet would have to be made up of people, probably some independents, Green, obviously depending on who gets how many seats and whatever. But no, that would be interesting. But no, like the thing is, I was one of the things I was going to say during this pod was that I was happy we weren't recording this immediately after the election because a lot has happened since. And we quite often
Keir Starmer's
end up
put his foot in his
feeling-
mouth. Rishi Sunak's made a tit of himself,
Yeah.
and Ed Davis having a fucking time of his life.
And it doesn't seem to be affecting him negatively in the polls. Like, people are just like, oh, look at him. He's having a good time. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't make you look like a serious politician at the same time, does it?
No, but he can definitely claw some points.
Yeah, I think definitely people will be like, oh, do you know what? Good on him. But yeah. But no, look, I know that's not the most positive message to be sending out there. It's one I feel like we end up on in a lot of these political pods because there isn't particularly much. I don't know whether this is like a red herring or, again, my naivety, but the fact Angela Rayner is still going to be Deputy Prime Minister gives me some hope. But if I'm being honest, traditionally the Deputy PM position is seen as like it's not a highly sought after position because it's very rare the Deputy PM actually ever has to perform the role of Prime Minister.
No, it's not like a substitute teacher where every once in a while
They get trotted out for an event or to do PMQs.
they stand up on PMQs, wheel the TV in,
Yeah.
stick on a film for an hour.
I would love Angela Rayner as a substitute teacher.
Really?
Yeah.
What, as a teacher?
I just think she'd be great crack. Do you know what I mean? I think she'd be all right. She'd take no nonsense.
Yeah.
I think she'd be quite strict. But I think she'd be all right.
Yeah.
You'd respect her. Do you know what I mean?
But you'd also like her.
Yeah. I like the cut of her jib. Do you know what I mean? Speaking of Angela Rayner, though, that's one thing we could end on, actually, that is positive. Have you heard the latest with her capital gains scandal?
No.
She's been cleared of all of it.
No.
The police have
No.
said they're taking it no further, and HMRC have said she has nothing to answer for.
Like we all knew it was going to be anyway.
100%.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure,
She's been completely cleared of, and it's funny. There's been very little media coverage of it. So,
Just it was just pure desperation, wasn't it?
Angela
From the
Rayner.
off.
We put our. I don't know how Jake feels, but I put my hope and my trust in Angela Rayner, if not Keir Starmer.
I like Angela Rayner, but I do need someone to stand up and say, ask for a ceasefire.
Mm. Do you think part of that is the fact
Israel recently, not that we're talking about it, I'm not going to dwell on it, but Israel recently bombed the shit out of Rafah again. Airstrike.
and they've invaded?
And then, and then said, it was an accident. And they've cleared themselves. If you go back and if you just write Israel clears itself, there are fucking hundreds over the last 20 years articles
Events.
where Israel, way before September, October 6th or whatever it was, October 7th, way before this kicked off, of Israel doing horrendous shit, killing people in Gaza and going, we'll look into it. No, we did nothing wrong. Shock horror.
Have you heard of Bassem Youssef?
No.
I'm surprised.
Not off the top of my head, not by name.
He's a Egyptian American. He was born in Egypt. He's now an American citizen. He was the Egyptian. Is it James Stewart? Jimmy's the late night presenter. Is it James Stewart? It's not his actual name though. Do you know the comedian guy that does politics?
Oh, Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart, thank you. He was considered like the Egyptian Jon Stewart, and he had to leave Egypt, as you can imagine, considering it's a dictatorship, because they didn't like him talking about politics. But he's a comedian now, and he went viral doing a Piers Morgan interview talking about Israel and Palestine. He's now done the rounds. Like, if you search his name, you'll find shitloads. But he gets so fed up of, he was like, October the 7th was horrific. It's horrendous. But it's in the wider context of everything that's been done. How are we making it equivalent what Hamas did compared to what's been done to the Palestinian people? There's no comparison. He's like, you can condemn Hamas, you can say what they did is horrific, because it's true. He said, but to then not, he said, why we have to spend half the conversation going back to October 7th every single time.
Yeah, we talk about it like it's the
to
start.
try and justify what Israel has done. And that, I think Piers Morgan asked him, what would you do if you were Israel? And he was like, I'd do exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu has done, because if you can, why wouldn't you? If you can wipe out whoever it is you want to wipe out, with zero consequences, no one says anything and everyone justifies what you're doing, you wouldn't do anything different. And he was like, I'm asking you seriously. He's like, I'm being like, he's like, what do you want from me? Like, he was like, it's quite clear that that's what's happening. He said Netanyahu has zero consequences for what he's doing. And so why would he stop doing it if he believes what he's doing is right and no one's saying anything or no one's willing
to... Or the contrary,
to...
they're all going, I think he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, he's like, then you would just continue doing it, wouldn't you? So he was like, if you're asking me personally, would I be killing thousands upon thousands of Palestinians? He was like, obviously not. He's like, my wife's got family there. He's like, they're trapped and we keep waiting for a phone call. But he was like, if you're asking me if I'm Netanyahu, what do I do? He's like, fuck it, I'll continue doing exactly what I've done.
Yeah.
There's no one stopping me.
But that's neither here nor there. It was just, there is an active genocide coming on. And again, we condemn Russia, but we're not going to condemn Israel.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And even Bassem Youssef, he says like the anti-Semitism argument, it's boring now, it has no teeth. He's like, call me anti-Semitic, I don't care. He said it's got nothing to do with them being Jewish. He said if it was the Palestinians doing it to the Israelis, I'd feel exactly the same way I feel right now. He said it's just a convenient argument to try and do, like, we have to spend the other half of the podcast talking about how we're not anti-Semitic rather than the atrocities that are taking place. So
yeah. Anyway, that, like I said, that's neither here nor there. It's just one of those things where it's like, until someone comes out and says, calls for a ceasefire, not temporary ceasefire, a ceasefire, and looks for some form of peace, publicly declares it, I just can't get behind anyone that would stay silent on genocide.
No, and the thing is, he hasn't just stayed silent on it. He initially completely backed their actions. He backed collective punishment, which is a man who worked in law and would have known the Human Rights Convention. There's no excuse for that. So no, I can completely understand that. But I'm being honest that if the only way to get the Tories out of our constituency is to...
I accept Labour are the only alternative.
If I have to vote Labour, I think it would most likely be Lib Dem because this area's been Lib Dem before.
I can vote Lib Dem and I will vote Lib Dem.
But if it's Labour, I'll be honest, I will probably still vote Labour just for that reason.
You had notifications on, didn't you?
That's just the timer saying the podcast is over, Jay. That's what we're going with anyway.
Yeah, no. It does do that.
Do you know what? Every now and again, we have an episode where it feels like shit goes wrong from start to finish. And this has definitely been one of them. But
this has been our political campaign trail.
Yeah, it's just...
Every single person is looking at us, listening to the episode, going, what the fuck are they doing? Why would you do that? They're setting themselves up for failure.
We absolutely are, but you know what?
We're having a whale of a time doing it.
We're having a whale of a time.
I'm going to ride my bike.
Did you ride a bike here?
No, but I'll just steal one. So it's fine. I'm going to go paddleboarding.
Why not?
I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah, why not?
And I've had the last couple of weeks...
Are you going to take a helicopter to wherever you're going, though?
If I could.
You really shouldn't. It's one of the most dangerous ways to transport yourself.
Based on what statistics?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can use statistics to prove anything. 56% of people know that.
100% of the people
8
know
in
that
10
going
people,
in helicopters is a bad idea.
8 in 10 people have been manipulated by statistics in the past.
100% of the people that have died in a helicopter crash would tell you that it's a bad idea.
60% of the time, 100% of the crew dies.
I like it.
All I'm saying is, if someone said to you, forget the car, forget the bus, train, horse, whatever it is.
I want to go for it once because I think, what are the chances of me dying the first time I get?
What do you mean? No. Sorry. We can't. I know that was like a typo. A verbal typo. But you're talking about, what are the chances that I can die only once? Statistically, I'll probably die several times.
No. But what I mean. What I'm saying is, what are the chances of me dying the first time I step foot in a helicopter?
Don't know.
I mean, there'll be a number, but it's quite a long shot. Do you know what I mean? I'd be unlucky to... Is it Kobe? LeBron?
Yeah, Kobe.
To go out the way Kobe did.
What? I mean, I'm trying to think of something really random, like how many people do you think die naked in a helicopter? Statistically, practically none. So get naked when you get in your helicopter.
Because that lowers the odds.
It lowers the odds.
See, if anything, I think if someone got naked in a helicopter, that's more likely to cause a crash because people are going to be distracted.
it's like Sean Lock did the thing on this, where he was like, do you know how many people died drink driving last year? However many thousands, like, do you know how many people died smoking weed and driving last year? This many thousands, like, do you know how many people died from drinking, driving, and smoking weed?
No.
Like 3. He's like, the odds are very good. Like, I'm not taking any chances when I drive.
I'm doing all
Yeah.
of it. Yeah, I like that. Rippers.
Yeah, rippers, big rippers.
It's gone to the big comedy show in the sky.
I went to a comedy club recently.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
The Stand in Glasgow.
Oh, nice. Was it good?
Yeah, it was.
Well, thanks for
I'll
that.
tell you about it. Too long to tell you about it on the
No,
pod.
especially at the end of the pod.
But I'll tell you about it off the pod.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, look, guys, thank you for listening. We're sorry it's not been a particularly positive one, but we hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless. Our political insights, our debating, our disagreements. And let us know what you think. Jake, tell them where they can let us know.
Right here, if you're watching.
Yeah.
At Swords Crossing on Twitter. CrossingSwords_podcast on Instagram. CrossingSwords_podcast on TikTok. Crossing Swords just on Facebook or YouTube. The link of which will be in the description of wherever you listen.
Yeah,
as well.
in
They'll be
every
there.
episode,
Every
not just one or
episode.
two.
You can go back and watch them all. You can look at them all, listen to them all, like and subscribe, share, comment on particularly on YouTube. If you could just go on, give it a like, give it a 30-second watch, comment, thumbs up. I mean, thumbs down, it doesn't really make a difference. The content of the comment doesn't actually affect
No,
the
we just need
algorithm. The
comments.
comment itself.
Just
is
tell us you
driver.
hate us if you want to. Some people do.
Yeah, just tell us what you're doing. You're like making toast. LOL. You know, masturbating again.
If you're having sex while listening
Ruffle.
to the pod,
Yeah,
let
do
us
it.
know.
If you know, particularly if you're laying there and you're on the receiving end, you think this isn't all that good, pop up the iPad, get on there,
Let us know.
little like, little comment,
Being noshed off right now, not enjoying myself.
or you can hit us on CrossingSwords19@gmail.com if you want to get through to us a bit more direct, a bit more personal, and just I think always important to remember that if you're ever in times of doubt, if you're ever not sure how to feel. This is really more for the people in the UK. For international listeners, I've got nothing, I'm afraid, at this current point. But for those in the UK, just remember, just if you're down, just hum yourself like duh, 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 duh. Fuck the Tories, duh, 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 duh. Fuck the Tories, duh, 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 duh. Fuck the Tories. That's all you need to remember, particularly when you're heading to the polls. Grab your ID,
Oh, 100%.
hit the polls, and
look,
shout from the top of your lungs.
my centrist ideals as I'm approaching the ballot box will be disappeared. I will be absolutely going do.
Fuck the Tories. I will. The thing is, it's such a shame that I've got to vote by post.
If
my
there's a
proxy.
crowd, I'm going to try and get it started.
'Cause
It's
I want-
difficult because this is a Tory area.
I want to walk into my polling station and just dance and sing. Da, 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 da. Fuck the Tories. Da, 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 da. Come on, everyone.
Fuck
the Tories.
Come on, even you. I know you got to stay impartial, but
Come
come
on.
on.
Come on, gang. Let's get these fuckers
The
out.
pollster doing the exit polls outside. Come on, my man.
Come on, buddy. You know you hate them.
Do you know what I mean? Come on, tell me, has your mum's benefits been cut? Of course they have. Come on, get in here.
Turning around and being like, actually, Doris, you're probably all right.
Yeah,
You'll probably do quite well out of this lot.
yeah.
Although, ask me this. Are you cold in the winter? Thought so. Get in and fuck them off.
because of my winter allowance.
Come on, dear. Let's get in and fuck them off. Last
Yeah.
thing you do before you pass this.
Do the right
Shuffle off
thing.
this mortal coil.
Die finally voting for the right side of things, Doris. Whole life you've been right wing.
Just once.
Yeah, do
Just
the right
on
thing.
the way out. Flick 'em the V's.
She's like, fuck Farage.
I would happily accept that as a parting words
Yeah.
from little old Doris.
I hope you've got some banger lined up for when you die.
Oh, I don't know.
Something to think about. Don't have to do it right now.
I always like the general that said when he died, I think it was about sort of like 18th century, 19th century general, passed away, and he was just in the presence of one of his commanding officers, and he just said, "Tell the men I said something good." And I'm such a big fan of that as you're passing. Like, I'm really just like, do you know, the makes me think of the tweet from the football. I can't remember which footballer it was that was just like,
Say something like.
yeah, say something like, good game, hard shift from the lads. We go again. Change it as you need it.
Yeah.
Send it out.
I think that might have even been like Micah Richards maybe back in the day.
But that was a good.
Yeah.
Jerry Halliwell did one the other day, actually.
Did she?
That was like, she wrote this little brief message and was like, just change it as you need it.
And
they just copied and pasted and sent it out, yeah.
Yeah.
But I quite like that. Tell
the
my
more
men I
I
said
hear
something
about
good.
how famous people's PR is handled, the more I think there's an
job.
open opportunity for us. We've just got to keep growing the pod, and then we can be like, look, here's our CV.
Let us help.
Yeah.
Let us help you.
Contact us for all of your PR needs.
And if you are running in the general election, you need a campaign manager or campaign managers, CrossingSwords19@gmail.com.
Hit us up.
We'll tell you the fee.
Yeah.
And then let us get you into Parliament.
Yeah. Let me put my poems in you.